Alright. Hello everyone. Today we're gonna make a tier list about Unicorn Overlord classes. I recently finished the game. It was a very good, exceptional, fantastic game. And as I finished it, I think I wanna sort the different classes in the game. From my own experience and impressions from playing on the highest difficulty. That was allowed. Once you defeat the game, at least on that difficulty, you unlocked another difficulty that you can try later, which I'm currently doing. But I played a lot less zealously than with our first playthrough. But yeah, extremely good game, a lot of fun, and that's why we're on this tier list. I make tier list on games I get very, not emotional, but very invested in. So this is just like my own experiences, what I thought was good, what I thought was cool, and I tried a lot of different units. I tried all units actually, and I tried different mix-ups. It's aware that because when you say units, you think of the characters, but like I tried all the classes. Units are where you put all the classes in to make a unit. So here's the list. We might change things as we go through. We're just gonna take it. I kind of sorted the classes after how you get them to the best of my memory. Some parts of the game are a bit more free, like free form. Like you can go in different directions. You can even do the final fight at like level 10-ish, maybe even lower, depending how good you have farmed the materials to build the bridge. To unlock the fight straight away, very early on. But yeah, this is like from my memory how we like get introduced to different classes. So what do I value to like what makes someone a better class than others? First things first is damage output. Big numbers, the faster you kill the enemies, the less actions they get to have, the better. Second is durability. Not only for themselves, but if they can provide it to others. So that includes not only like guard or being able to cover others or healing, but no, but also healing, and not only. So it's not like only having armor, the armor tag, for example. And third, I value buffs that makes other classes stronger or themselves. We're gonna start. I'm just gonna take a gulp. And we're off. Starting with the High Lord, Elaine. Instant S tier. Why is Elaine so good, our main character? Well, he has his own sustain. Both when he activates his passive skill, he gains 10% health, and then when he strikes, he does another 10. Oh no, when he downs someone with, is it lean edge? But anyways. Yeah, he has good durability. He can solo frontline very easily. In almost all cases. He only started dying on me at the very, very, very end. Like, literally on the final battle, because that one is such a marathon of a fight. And there were a few combinations there that could actually explode a lane. He has a rogue kill. The fucking, when he spins on his horse, very funny to look at. This is one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen in a video game. He's doing like the typical RPG whirlwind strike, but while on top of a horse. It's good stuff. Yeah, it does good damage, he tanks, he does everything you want. He has the initiative buff. It's extremely good. Or is it first strike? Yeah, I don't remember everything like to the very point of what everything does. Just going off memory, but I know that Elaine is S tier. He's always good. Whatever unit he's leading is probably the unit that's going to carry through the most fights. Oh yeah, another thing why I value characters on lists. So the things I mentioned, the burst damage, the durability, and the buffing, all this is because in this game you're gonna fight a lot, and you can't fight a lot with a unit that would take, like, say, a third or half of their total health in a single fight. You need to be able to do good matchups. So this has to do, of course. I'm gonna go more on it later on as we go through the classes. But when you get the classes also matters for where to get on the tier list. Alright, so next is High Priestess, our main heroine, Scarlet. High Priestess is another S tier. She is the best healer in the game, because she can also dish out some pretty good damage against armored enemies, or just enemies in general. She has good heals. She can remove buffs, like AoE damage that removes buffs. Against magic resistance, sure, that sucks. She's not gonna do much damage against those. But against armored targets like Legionnaires, she will help you blow them up. Very good healer. Because she's the only one. I thought she was gonna be a cleric when I first got her, but then I realized clerics don't get an attack with their active skills, which are the red ones if you're playing the game. So yeah, she is top class. She is the healer you wish every cleric you bought was. She does miss. Just check if I can remember correctly here. Because she might be missing one important ability that Bishop says. I don't have the game open right now. Alright, here we go. Alright, never mind. Yeah, so I was about to say she doesn't have Refresh that Cleric has, which removes debuffs, but she has an active skill called Curing Call, which is a row heal and removes debuffs. It's kind of the same thing, but it costs an AP instead of a PP. And then she has the passive miracle, where she gives someone a PP and heals them a little bit. Which she gets when someone applies a passive skill on her. So normally, when you put these two together, he's gonna do his initiative buff, and then she is gonna do the passive miracle on him, so he gets his PP back for using that ability. And a little bit of healing. So that's normally how it goes. Alright, so Vanguard. This is Lex. Lex comes in, he rushes 3 Houscarls, gets his slap shit, and this class is the worst class in the game, the Vanguard / Fighter, which hurts. I tried to get Lex to be good so many times throughout the game. I gave him so many different compositions. It just isn't a good class, except in the early game, because you're stuck having to use him more or less. And why is the Fighter not a good class? Bad damage. He has the is it called Warding Slash? Let's see. Yeah, they have the ability where they God damn it. Never mind. Yeah, so they have this strike where after they attack they get +1 from physical armor. The problem is, which both I and the people watching my stream noticed, is that Lex and the class is so freaking slow that they get to strike almost after every other class. So that physical armor buff doesn't matter for the first strikes, which is terrible. If you don't like it. Because you're gonna need to give him items to give him initiative, and if you give him items that he needs initiative just so he can get that buff, then he doesn't have slots for other things that he can need more, like an AP or PP pendant, or an item that gives him, or the gloves that gives more guard, etc. for the health. So yeah, it's a terrible class. And now what does it do in terms of protection? It has the blocking ranged attacks for others. And the problem is, there are other abilities, which we'll go soon talk about, that does this, and it can block melee attacks as well. So the fighter's protection is super conditional. It has to be from a ranged attack, which is useless if you're fighting something that does not have ranged attacks, but can still hit the back row, like say a sergeant. There's stabby stab, or a knight that would just run through everyone. So yeah, the Vanguard's protection stuff is underwhelming. It's not entirely useless, but it gets replaced very easily. Like every time I use a fighter, I'm just like, why am I using a fighter? Why am I not using a Legionnaire or what's it called, Radiant Knight or whatever? I never remember which one is the upgraded version. Well, I assume this is not the upgraded version, then, because the horse doesn't have any bardings. The Sainted Knight, that's the one. Place that down the list. Yeah, the only good thing about the Vanguard is that it has an 1 AP strike that applies stun. Stuns are good, especially in turn-based game. Why is stuns good? Because in a turn-based game, if you can steal your opponent's turn by not letting them do anything and they take a little bit of damage, that's like almost always one of the best things you can do in a turn-based game. Especially when you have other characters that can do damage in place of that one, spending theirs to denying an enemy to do anything. But yeah, unfortunately, there are just way better frontline choices. Not something you want in the back row either. Like, unless you're like extremely, like super specific tactics where you like want to bait the AI's upset tactics where maybe they focus the back row with the row shot or something from the sniper. And then you like switch around to have your squishies in the front row instead of the back row, etc. Not that we need that, because that's the one time where this guy's block attack would actually come in, but it was just an example, a quick one. Alright, so next is Joseph that comes running out. Joseph is a paladin. Paladins are like Radiant Knights. And I want to put... I'm gonna put him in situational. Why do I put him in situational? People are gonna think of Joseph as this super strong character that slaughters everything. That's because Joseph is the starting Fire Emblem Knight. What does that mean? That means he's the character that is X levels higher than everyone else at the start. Everyone else starts at level 1. Joseph is level 12. He is halfway through, well, he's halfway through about the level where everyone will be near the end of the game. The max level is 50, but most characters will be around 40 if you do a little bit of grinding. It depends on team compositions. I had to do a bit of grinding because a lane gang cleaned most enemies, so he got the most XP. So yeah, he's a Radiant Knight. He has slightly different moves, but more or less they function pretty much the same. I'd say he's a slightly better, but he's also a one-off Paladin class. There's him, and then there's one enemy in the game. That's the Paladin class, and that's it. So he's situational because if we think about him as a Radiant Knight, very strong against magic. They have like very strong, yeah. The magic bubbles that protects them from magic damage, all that good stuff. He's on a horse, so he can be a leader, and you get the mounted bonuses, the movement speed spike. It comes with the penalty of going through woods and making them super slow. Yeah. Damage isn't great. It's great at the start when he's overleveled. But yeah, this is mostly a support class more than anything else. And I find the Paladins just not tanky enough. Not on highest difficulty that I was playing on. Well, the highest one that you can play from the start without unlocking the difficulty after that. But yeah, here's your... in case of emergency, you break the glass and you pull out Joseph to win you the early fights. Until you like can start putting up your own units more frequently, when you can start hiring different roles. But yeah, Joseph's definitely not weak. I do like the Paladin / Radiant Knight as a combination frontliner with, say, a very tanky physical defender. Because then they got the things covered. The problem is I find both the Paladin and the Sainted Knight, they both have a tendency of dying because there's a lot of anti-cavalry bonuses that the enemy likes to use. Especially the class we're about to take up, the Sergeant. And the Sergeant is another situational to me. I love the Sergeant at the start. This was... the first 2 characters I recruited was 2 soldiers because I just liked what they had. They had the buff that's a guaranteed crit. They have emergency heal. They can hit a row. They do bonus damage as cavalry. And then you start looking, and then you're like, huh, they have this plus 50 potency against cavalry. Yet, they don't really one-shot anything, ever. Well, no, that's a lie. They one-shot flyers with the javelin skill. That's fantastic. I love that. I love seeing javelin getting charged up and then normally that kills whatever has wings, more or less. But yeah, it's such an all-rounded class, but it has such terrible stat growth. I think that's the problem with the class. It doesn't come with its own impact, even with Unslashed. I had Chloe. I think Chloe was great. I used her for the longest time along with Lex. They did pretty decent through most of the game, but then I got to Albion, and that's when it's like, well, not Albion. I think it started at Pistorius. That's when I started noticing like this shit isn't holding up. I need to use something else. Especially when I got to Albion, that's like I can't use Lex and Chloe anymore. They just don't bring the pain. And they're not tank enough. So yeah, Star is kind of weird. It's like they don't have the stats to be a frontliner. They don't have the damage output to warrant a back row slot. There's like this weird mix of being a buffer and a damage dealer. Not so much in protection, but they have like the emergency heal. It's a very flexible class. You can like tinker a lot once you have unlocked all their abilities. I like Unslashed. I think it's pretty good. I just wish it was slightly better so it could just deliver more impact. Because even back row enemies survived when Chloe was doing it. And even with the buff, because Oned Slash, I don't know. I don't know how it's spelled, I don't know how it's pronounced. It just couldn't one-shot that many units. Even things that I assumed it would kill, like other squishy backliners. But no. So, I think Soldier Sergeant is a fine class. They just don't stand out. And I feel like there's normally better choices. And I think, one thing is worth mentioning, I think this class works better the more of them you have. We like focus on just doing the hitting 2 people every time. If you have 2 of them and you make it so they attack at the same time, like they have about the same initiative, maybe you can give them a feather each or something to be faster than most of the enemies, and they get to stab twice. Then that's a very nice combo. That's a very good synergy. And they still will like, normally I see them like buffing each other with Keen Edge, whatever it's called. That guarantees the crit, and that can do a lot of work, and it's a very fun build to play with. But yeah, I put her in situational because it's not a brain dead choice. Alright, so next is the Legionnaire. This is Hodrick. Hodrick arrives, he's brainwashed. We save him from the brainwash. And I think I want to put the Legionnaire in Fantastic. Yeah. I'm contemplating if it's Fantastic or Always Good. S or A tier. I'm not the kind of guy that makes A plus and S minus and S plus, all that shit. It's just more brackets for no reason. It doesn't matter how many brackets you have. It doesn't matter something A plus. If I have just A plus instead of S, then the same thing as being S on another bracket. It's just how many brackets do we have? I have this many. I think this is good enough. What I wanna discuss. So why is the Legionnaire fantastic? It's the best protector in the game whose only weakness is magic damage. And you don't fight a lot of magic users. There are wizards present, yes. Occasionally witches and sorcerers. But most of the time, it's gonna be physical damage dealing. And Legionnaires will just take 1 damage from almost anything. Except for breakers, but that's something we'll bring up when we get to that class. Yeah, Hodrick, I think I even replaced Lex with a higher, the Legionnaire. And then I used another Legionnaire, Gibbish, my golden Legionnaire boy, who served for the wizard unit to protect them, because wizards has a lot of magic resistance, but yeah, they go splat to fucking physical damage like nobody's business. There always the Legionnaire come in to help them protect against that. It's not. What makes it not S tier is no damage output. Sting is terrible. Sting does almost no damage. It's better to just spend that action point on, what's the ability called, like Guardian Shield or just Great Shield, something like that. I want to cost 1 AP and buffs up their stats. Oh yeah, and they have a shitload of guard rate. I think Hodrick had 100% by the end game because I gave him the best stuff because he's the bestest boy. And another thing is they're terrible leaders, which is unfortunate because I enjoyed Hodrick's leader lines on the battlefield. But yeah, not much else. I'm just trying to think. They have the row protection. They kind of protect the entire row. He can jump back, block, etc., etc. He buffs the other units on his line, on his row, with a pretty massive buff. So yeah, you don't bring him for damage. You bring him for protection, so other ones can deal damage in peace. And the Legionnaire does that perfectly. It's just horrendously slow. That's why they suck ass as a leader. They have like 50 mobility. It's the worst in the game. It's pretty much always better. Make someone else a leader. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Another plus for the Vanguard is they have resistance against. If I can remember the right word, ranged assist. It's called ranged assist. I think you have magic assist, which is ranged assist, but with magic damage. When the volley comes, they have this, but Legionnaire also has that. Vanguard is faster, has more mobility. But yeah, there are other characters also has this ranged assist that we'll talk about later. I think. No, Elaine does not. Elaine has the one where he gets more valor points when he defeats a unit. Yeah, Legionnaire, if you need a frontliner, he is your first choice because he just does everything. I normally combine Legionnaires with a Paladin slash Sainted Knight because that covers all the weaknesses. They will occasionally still like die. Now you can't always have them be indestructible each other, but they can. The two of them can work very good on a 2-man front line. Just these two because they're like the extremes of each side. Like this is the extreme magic resist guy. This is the extreme physical resist guy. All right, Great Knight. This is aka Clive. Clive shows up at the harbor when Scarlet gets kidnapped. And most people will think of. Most people are probably still in the early game stuff. Where Clive is the dominant god. And the great thing about Great Knights is that they synergize with themselves. They have buffs that buffs cavalry. And if other cavalry is present, they do things like they have pursuit where they attack after another cavalry unit attacks. And you can just have 3 of these on the front row and they will kill most things through most of the game. But then Bastoria happens, and that's like, what is Clive doing anymore? He is struggling so hard with his 2 knight friends. And just yeah, you need to retool them. I was using a shaman in the back and a radiant knight, and I thought that was good enough, but it's not. You need to you need to change things up near the end if you want to keep the knights going. But yeah, the knights just struggle against all the shit that comes in Bastorias and Albion, which makes them fall down one step. They become great again in the final fight. That's when Clive started killing things again because we are fighting infantry again, and infantry is what you bring the Great Knight for, to kill. Remember, not good against flyers. Flyers being present in Dragonland, which is the second area. Then you get to Elmheim, where he does fairly well, but there's a lot of evasion bullshit, but most of the time it doesn't bother him. Except for the Gryphon Riders. Especially Gryphon Riders, but we just need to avoid putting him against the Gryphon Riders. And he's fine in Elmheim. Then comes Bastorias. And I wish I understood what the fuck happened in Bastorias. The werewolves eat knights without problem. They will gobble down the Great Knights. Instantly, almost. Like, they don't need the werefox stuff going on either. They just, if there was a unit of werewolves, they would just destroy Fly's gang. Most of the time. But yeah, very solid damage dealer. Can work on the front line. It's not a dedicated tank, but they are bulky enough to withstand the punishment till they get healed by their support back row. I like stacking them. I know some people likes to mix up the different cavalry units, but this guy, I think, worked fantastic by themselves because there's just so much raw firepower, and they still have the bulk to deal with most. And Clive Gang is gonna carry you through Cornea and a bit of Drakenhelm as well. Not Drakenhelm, Drakenland, whatever it's called. Just don't, just have him fight the ground units. Don't try to put him against the Wyverns, and he should be fine. Alright, so next is Rogue, aka Travis. Travis and the Rogues are S tier. There is only one class in the entire game that can win against Almia one-on-one. And that is the Rogue. No other class can you pit one-on-one against Almia in the Colosseum to get her recruited. Then just bring the Rogue. Why? Because he steals her AP, he steals her PP. She only gets to do one attack or two depending on initiative stuff. As long as she doesn't guard the stealing, you will only be able to do that, and then you automatically evade those two, and then you're Gucci. You deal like 4 damage to her, but she deals 0 damage to you. And by the law of the Colosseum and how the game works, how it calculates who wins a round, the Rogue wins. Yeah, if you have problem with getting Amalia, is that her name? I think that's so. Just bring Travis and remove all his abilities other than the 2 steals or the 1 steal, depending on what level he is. He gets the active steal later on. So yeah, Rogue it's such a godlike frontliner. Normally when we see rogues in fantasy games, we think this is the high damage evasive guy. In this game, it's the low damage evasive guy, but he is ridiculously evasive. He can tank so much by himself. It is insane how good the rogue class is as a tank. And it's like, and he has high evasion on top of his evade. It's 2 different things. Evade is a passive skill that is an automatic dodge, costs 1 PP, and he can steal PP if he so desire. Just be careful against this guy, the Legionnaires, or even Vanguards, because they have a high block rate. If the first strike gets blocked in an attack, it's like 4 times or something for baby damage. But yeah, if that happens, you don't get to steal any points, which is bad. But yeah, I love this guy with archers in the back. That was my thing. I put the rogues in front, archers in the back. Even when I unlocked 5 slots, I was like, oh, I can put a 4th archer. And I put like one, the Shieldshooter, I think they're called, in the front, because that was like a kind of tanky archer unit. But no, it just did worse. If I just removed that and just let Travis be solo in the front, that unit still did better. Because otherwise the Shieldshooter would just keep dying. So I just recruited a 2nd rogue instead. So I had 2 rogues at the front, which was an improvement. And the rogue can also do a few things. It can apply seals. And if you want to do the poison stuff, this is one of your options. It has 1 poison attack. It's pretty weak poison. At least when I used it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it unless you want to make the poison thing happen with the werefoxes. And there's one staff. If you cast this, the staff casts this thing on a poison target, it makes an explosion, which is pretty nice if you want to build around that. Yeah, rogues S-tier frontliners because they just take no damage. Just make sure you don't put them up against Swordmasters or Archers, the typical True Strike gang. But against almost everything in the game, they won't be bothered. And that's why it's a great class. Alright, Vikings are next. Vikings, Houscarls. I think it was called Auburn or something like that. The mercenary guy that we hire. I want to put this guy on situational. It's kind of here in between. I don't know what happens in the very late game, but the Viking goes from pretty I should say, okay damage output. In the early game, I thought it was like one of the best. But at the late game, his damage output just becomes so terrible. So underwhelming. But he still applies physical damage down in a row. And it still has tools like stun immunity with a Warhorn. And he does a little bit of strikes. But these are pretty weak hits. I even tried making an offensive one. I used up his equipment, all that stuff. Didn't achieve. But yeah, great early game class. I think he hits pretty good. But in the end game, it seems to fall off. I still used Auburn all the way out. Because he shredded a bit of physical armor and he did the AoE cleaves. And just like the Vanguard, he has a stun. I think it's called Smash. Very simple name. But yeah, he still applies stuns as well. Which makes him alright. It's not a unit I want to mass out. But I think they're pretty good. Oh yeah, and also when the enemy started using like mass Vikings, it was pretty relaxing for me. Like, oh, it's just a bunch of Vikings, it's fine. It's a very cool class though. And I definitely am gonna try to experiment more with it in my next playthrough when I play on the hardest difficulty +1. Alright, so next is the sniper. Right. So the sniper is an S-class or an S-rank unit. This is your premium. This is one all the other archers is gonna be compared to. This is worth bringing instead of just bringing the sniper. Especially as a leader. The ranged assist is such a big impact on it can turn a losing fight into a winning one where you take no damage. And the reason is, well, a lot of reasons. Why do we like the sniper? One, it has True Strike. What is True Strike? True Strike ignores being blinded, it ignores evasion, it ignores evade. Anything that makes you attack miss, True Strike goes through. And sniper also has a row shot, which is really good to delete the backlines, especially if the backline comes with flyers, aka Albion. Sniper never gets out of the meta. Or like, there is no region that really punishes you for bringing snipers. Of course, there are things like the Vanguard exists, Legionnaire exists to give the ranged assist resistance. There we go. Yeah, that's a good class. And yeah, it's very basic, but it's very good at what it does. So that's why it's always good to have Rolf with you. Alright, next is the Berserker. Now, if I was making this tier list while I was still in Albion, I'd put Berserker here in the struggle. But then my third eye opened, and I realized the game has lied to you in how the Berserker works. This is not a frontline unit. Even if it has bulk up, it has a shitload of health, it has no armor. Even at like level 40, you have like 10 armor. This is a back row deleter. This is a fantastic unit when you cater to it. Oh, my throat. Sorry about that. So, what do we... how do you cater to the Berserker? And is it worth it? I say yes. At the end, I brought 2 Berserkers with me for Gilbert. I think that's the name of the prince. Get an initiative because they're kind of slow, and then you give them True Strike. That's it. That's all they need. And if you can get them attack, that's just gravy. Also, this unit gets better once they hit level 30. Once they get that fucking comet drop. They just launch themselves into the air and then falls down like a comet and damage everyone. Well, all the enemies. That's very good. There are some moves you don't want the red one that heals them and gives them physical attack. You don't want to waste action point on that. Don't remove that from the list. They don't need that. You want them to swing as much as possible because they hit really hard when they do hit against like Legionnaires. But you can work around that if you have Sorceress with them, which is also like another source of true strike if you don't have Gilbert yet. And then they have, is it called Berserk? It's like their last passive skill they can bring. You don't wanna... I personally only use it when they have 1 PP left, because I don't want to spend all my PP. Like, bulk up is still nice if they take like assist damage from magic or ranged assist. Or if they get stabbed by a soldier, they can still bulk up and heal themselves, because you want it to be at full health. At full health, they do bonus damage with 2 of their moves, I believe. And yeah, and the counter, yeah, because you see like the counter, you think like, oh, they're in a frontline unit. You put them in frontline so they get hit and then strike back. No. You have the counter in case they get hit in the back, and then they do like a little bit of extra damage with the swing. Yeah, you want to keep them full health, so some form of healing. In my unit, it was 2 Berserkers, it was Gilbert, aka Prince, and on the front line it was a Radiant Knight and I think it was a Legionnaire. But yeah, a very good unit once you work with it. They can deal so much damage, it's insane. But they need a bit of work. But I think the payoff makes them so much better. Like the payoff when you do help them a bit makes them 8 higher. I only realized this at the very end of my campaign or playthrough. Alright, the Bishop. That is an S tier. This is your healing. This is your heal bot. This is the person that makes sure your units aren't blinded, so they can strike back, except in Albion, because there will be so much fucking blind from 5 units of feather bows, but we'll get there. Yeah, she heals, she removes debuffs, she resurrects units, which is probably one of the best things in the game, is when you can get a free resurrection off and bring that unit back, and then you get another fight and they get healed up, and then you're back at it again with that unit without having to spend time resting in a garrison. Alright, next is a Warlock. Warlock is slightly worse than the Sniper in my opinion. Still, magic assist, very good. You should always make sure you have a Warlock or some magic assist, and this is one of the best options. The Warlock does more damage than the Witch/Sorceress. Has a lot of fun abilities to work with. You have the stun for a row, you can do the column fire, you can work with Warlocks to do the fire combo build, where you use the staff, that when you hit someone with a staff, it explodes if they're burning. Just like with the poison with the rogue, there are 2 of these. But yeah, it's just the magic version of the Sniper, more or less. Like, it has its own thing. It has magic counter, which helps if they get attacked in the back, which can happen. Just because you're in the back row doesn't mean you're safe, especially if you don't have a Legionnaire or someone else who can block in the back. And remember, there are like items that can circumvent some of these classes' weaknesses, like it's a shield that can give fighters a cover, for example, and so on. So this guy doesn't have as situational, but we're only rating the classes like without equip, more or less. We're like rating the classes of what can they do, and what can they do with other classes without involving items. Items, of course, can patch up their weaknesses, and it can further boost up their strength. Yeah, the Warlock, pretty good damage dealer. But again, magic resistance is pretty frequent. Both in other casters have a lot of magic resistance, so like in the mirror match or whatever you want to call it, it's a bit of a problem. Normally you mix the Warlocks in with some physical damage dealer like the front line. But yeah, they have a lot of cool tools to keep casting, and they can cast different things to adapt to what you're up against. Whether it's a big row or if there's important shit in the back, you tell their tactics to focus on getting the column spells, the fire ones. And they can spend their AP to cast another again. Pretty good class, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a bit less I want to say it does better than these two. Like, sorting here doesn't really matter. Actually, I think I might put Berserker down here. But just because it needs a little bit, just because it needs the help. But it does fantastic job. Yeah, the Gladiator is not weak. It just needs support. Alright, Breaker. Breaker is a class that I wanted to work so hard with because you get free warriors, the unpromoted version, really fast in the start. You can get 3 of them almost back to back, depending on how you play the game, of course, like how you decide. But how I did it, I ended up getting 3 of these. I put them in the front line. They got killed by everything. I was disappointed. I put them on a shelf for a while. Then I realized, what if I put them in the back row? What happened when we put them in the back row? The Breaker becomes fucking godlike. I'd say they're almost S tier. Once they get enraged, it's like a completely different character. So the strategy is you wait for them, you let them get as many enraged buffs as possible, you give them a tanky front line that can take a beating. Just let these guys stack their enraged as many times as possible, 3 or 4 times. 3 times is not normally enough. Then they go in, they do one swing, they hit for like 200 damage, and no one's gonna be able to evade them unless they're a rogue. Or the Wyvern, I think, has like a counter move that is evasion. And the Gryphonite. But yeah, almost no one will be able to evade him. He goes in, he one-shots them, and then he does Assaulting Blow and one-shots the back row one at a time, because Assaulting Blow is when they kill someone, they get that 1 AP back, the ability costs 1 AP, so you see it's becomes a loop there. But yeah, this guy is a late game bloomer class. It becomes so fucking good near the end. And you really need a good... it does require some equipment to really shine. But you should have a lot of equipment by the time they get to level 30, 25. Don't get too... don't... only let their blue ability be the enrage. And it will be worth it. Trust. Like, that gets insane. Especially if you have the luxury to give them physical attack buff or items that gives them more physical attack. Like Warrior's Medallion comes to mind. Yeah, fantastic class. Love it. Really struggled to find its place at the start when I started the game. It's a back row unit. It's not a frontliner. You let them sit in the back. You let them build up in rage, and then they delete everything. It doesn't matter how much armor they have. They can bypass armor if need be, and so on and so forth. Yeah, fantastic class. Almost as tired. It's just they need a little bit of build up. And they have sometimes they have tendency to just flat out die. Alright, the Landsknecht, aka Berenice. That is an S tier unit if I ever seen one. This is your premium physical damage dealer. That isn't a unique character. This Landsknecht does so much damage. It's insane, and they do it constant because they have the counter. You can give them Pursuit if you want to be cute. And yeah, they just... once they get double crossed, that's a game changer. Double cross does so much damage, insane. Give them all the AP in the world, and they will let you have the payoff. They have so much... I think they must have like a Gorillion scaling in their physical attack. Because, like, through the early and mid game, Viking and Landsknecht was pretty similar in damage output to me. Like, Landsknecht obviously had a little bit more because they can just spend more of their points to deliver damage. But then near the end game, the Landsknecht kept up and the Viking fell down. But yeah, if you want a really brainless unit, you grab 3 of these. You put a Legionnaire at the front, maybe a Paladin / Radiant Knight. And like for a little bit of healing and tanking. And then you watch the 3 of these guys just going off each other because, like the knight, the Landsknecht, they synergize off each other. one strikes and the other ones like to follow up strikes on that, and then they just keep cycling until everything is dead. And they hit really hard. And that's all you really need from a unit. That they hit harder than the enemy, most of the cases. That's how you win. Alright, Sorceress. Sorceress is a... I wanna say situational. On my streams we call them the Hostway because of the witch animation. And Hostway is out on Twitch. That's the me dance when she does the hip thing, which is... I think it got popular on TikTok. I don't go to TikTok because I'm a boomer. But yeah, the Sorceress is a great buffer. It doesn't have the damage output of the Warlock, but if you don't have a Warlock, the Sorceress still kills Legionnaires without problem. She deals with Vanguards, no problem. Helps the Berserker with accuracy problems. Definitely has its ups and downs as you play through the campaign depending on which area you're in. Never felt too weak to me. And yeah, she has the I don't know exactly what cause, but like she gives half of her magic attack to the attack of the next unit. Deals that much magic. It's really good in the early game when enemies are kind of like low HP. They can still be enough to push it into a one shot. Or like say you buff the Berserker with that stuff, and he will just cleave through with Vanguards and the Legionnaires. But that ability becomes weaker later on in the game when units get like a shit ton of HP, and you just need a bit more impact than what that gives. So yeah, she's great in the early. She's pretty good in... I used Yana through the entire campaign without problem. She only got benched at the very last battle, or when I was prepping for the last battle, because I just couldn't find a spot in her. Not because Sorcerer was weak, mind you. Just because the units I made just didn't need a Sorcerer. Sainted Knight. It's the same as the Paladin, but it's the more spammable version because you can recruit more of these and you get 2? I think it's Miriam and Monica are the 2 Sainted Knights you get. I don't think there was a third. I was quickly thinking through the character. You get like fucking 70 or 80 characters through the game. But yeah, I think you only get 2 special ones. But they're easy to recruit. They're solid. It's everything I said about the Paladin. They're almost the same. But yeah, great class if you need. Row heal is really good. Heal up a row. If you have them in the back, they can safely heal the front. Can be a part of the front, but then they risk dying to physical damage because in terms of tanking isn't very good. Tanking physical attacks. And if you start investing into like a shield that gives them medium guard or whatever, then they're not spending PP on their buffs, which you brought them there for. So yeah, it's a situational support class, I'd call them. They don't do much damage. They do a little bit of damage. But yeah, you bring them for the support capabilities, not for the damage output. So that's why they're situational. Alright, next is the Gryphon Master. Gryphon Master was a weird class. There are times when it's amazing, and then it gets that one move where it uses its current health to deal damage. It doesn't use it, but it uses the numbers. It's an evasion fight frontliner. You can have them in back. Gives high initiative. Works well with each other. Very great against cavalry, but cavalry kinda disappears as an enemy once you leave Cornea. And then you start fighting like Wyverns. Gryphons does well against Wyverns, but that's really only a threat in Drakenland. Then you get to the Elvelands. And there's a few cavalry units there from the Sonora units. Then you get to the Beastlands, and there's no cavalry there whatsoever, almost. It's pretty much only the furry enemies, which doesn't have cavalry. Honestly, I like that they're flying. They can pick off some units, like, say, a group of wizards in a tower. I have occasionally been able to have Gryphon Master kill a unit of archers. but I'm not sure what happened there to make that happen. Yeah, this innovation frontliner comes with a little bit of tools. It's really great when you get them because you get them to, hey, here's these new threats, the Wyvern riders. We'll use these Gryphons, and they can fuck up cavalry and they can fuck up the Wyverns just simply because they're not grounded units. That's more or less it. Yeah, I wouldn't call. I'd say they're in the middle of the road. They're situational. It's not something you slap on everything. Great NPC design. I do like the NPC look more than Fran. Alright. Yeah, I can't say more about it. It's a flying unit. It's probably the most universal flying unit. I'd say it's the best flyers of the flyer units because of the speed. Having a slow flyer is pretty awful, I'm not gonna lie. That's why I think it's the best leader flyer, so to say. Alright, next is Druid. I think Druid are fantastics. Druid can screw up so many things on the enemy team. As long as there's no Cleric or anything that... Clerics or Sainted Knights that has the ability where they like give units one resistance to... or resist one debuff incoming. And bishops they have. Bishop slash clerics has the refresh. And Scarlet has curtain call. But yeah, druids, they can debuff the debuff great. They can make units with little sustain be enough sustain. I had a druid with my Gryphon masters. It went pretty well most of the time. I had to swap it out near the end game. I think it was in Albion. I had to change things up for the Gryphon masters to help dealing with the feather units. Because she would just die to the fucking feather bows. Yeah, there's a great staff you can get in Colosseum fairly early on that gives Sandstorm. That's a great one to give to Druid. Just slaps blind on all the enemies. She does that at the start of battle. Can't really say much. They don't have any damage, but they prevent damage by a ton. Which is almost just as good, especially on units that can like sustain themselves when doing damage. Whether if that's through brooches, if you don't know what a brooch is when they use an active skill or a passive skill, depends on the brooch, I think. I think there are one for each. They heal 10, 15 to 20% depending on which version of their HP. But yeah, druids, I like druids. I had 2 with me throughout the game that helped the cavalry and they helped the flyers. The units that was kinda having a little bit of a problem against their like, should we say, units good against them, because there's a couple of units that are good against cavalry. Alright, Valkyria. I don't know if I did something wrong with Virginia here, our good cousin that you can marry, who is very clearly mentioned is your cousin when you meet her. But she, Virginia here is pretty A. But her damage kind of disappears at the very end. Like her damage was so mediocre, it was like Viking tire damage almost. I'll put her here at the front because of the unique units here at the lead. But yeah, Valkyria is she's a unit. She's a very tanky unit because she can have 2 shields on her and a weapon. The damage mediocre. She does have like ignore 50% of physical armor. That does help her. But yeah, a Landsknecht with double cross still did more than her triple swing attack, which felt weird. I guess that's like a build thing how you build her. I kind of built her like an all-rounder. I tried to give her a big damage weapon. I gave her like, I mean, there's only so many shields that gives offensive stuff. Yeah. Very good unit leader. That's what keeps her in A at least. Her unit ability is pretty good. She has range assist resistance, and her what are they called? The yellow skills I can use on the field. Hers is great. It blocks assists and it blocks first strike for one battle. And it has an AoE effect she can apply to nearby allies on top of herself. It's one of the best ones in the game, actually. Which is unique to her and the queen. Alright, so next is a Swordmaster. This is Leia, or the Simp. Her name is House Mei Ying. M something. Swordmasters, I'm gonna call them situational. Fantastic in Albion. This is definitely a unit that shines, like in Albion and Bastoria. Their damage just isn't great. I gave mine the biggest swords I could give them. I gave them. I even changed the the personalities or whatever, the stat growth curve thing, make them more aggro. But yeah, it's a good frontliner. It has evade like the rogue, but it can't fill up its PP like the rogue does. You can build a Swordmaster two ways. You can build them to frontline, or you build them in the back row. If you do the back row version, they do get a lot of good damage, especially if you give them the crit stuff. And the problem is, a lot of crit weapons, you get them kind of early on. So their attack is kind of low. You get late as you progress through the game. But when you get to the blacksmith guy in Albion, who will put the stats up to 25 attack. So all weapons get the highest value. And when you get to that spot, then the Swordmaster gets in a real. But yeah, this is a situational good unit. Not always great. Parry sometimes doesn't trigger. I'm not sure if unguardable attacks counts as being unparryable. But yeah, most of the time, very good evasion tank with parry plus high evasion does pretty good job. But yes, the damage output is like a Viking situation. The damage just disappears as you progress through the game, even if you keep up with the levels and equipment. But I used them for quite a bit, and I definitely enjoyed using them in Albion. Because in Albion they spam a lot of blind, and Swordmasters does not give a shit about their being blind. So yeah, if you want to use them, there's no problem with that. Just mind that their damage output does need help. Especially if there are beefier units. Alright, next is the Shieldshooter. I almost want to put her in S tier because of her field skill alone, but she's gonna be put in A. There's a lot of, I don't know what they wanted to do with this unit. There's so many different things. She has a toxic attack. I mean, it's called Toxic Bolt, I believe. It's a poison ability, so if you want to do the poison thing, this is another option along with the rogue and the werefox. She has an ability called Heavy Bolt. Like, if they are in the front row, they get 100 extra potency, which kind of doubles the attack damage on that. But the Shieldshooter just isn't a good frontliner. They need so much help. Their block thing is nice, but I still prefer it as a backliner. Which, when I talked about Travis, if you remember that earlier on in the video, when I got my 5th slot on that unit, I put Lisa in the front line because she was the Shieldshooter. That unit did worse because of that. So I just swapped out my generic archer I had in that unit and just let Lisa be there. And another archer which we will talk about later. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Shieldshooter's still best in the back row. Provides, they have a lot of utility stuff, but it's just fine to just let them do their basic bolt attack and block when needed. Put that on tactic, make them focus on the back row to block. You don't want them to block the frontliners. I had the mistake of her doing specifically that and taking unnecessary damage tanking for Travis when Travis could just dodge the attacks. You can have when Scout is present, or trying to think, yeah. No, I wish you could say if the enemy had True Strike, to activate the skill. There's not such specific things you can do. Alright, so next is the Doom Knight. This is a late bloomer class, definitely. You need to get the flames, the Hellflame, whatever it was called. And like the Dark Pact. Once you get all the pieces, the Doom Knight is definitely an S-tier unit. Gloucester. Gloucester with 2 Doom Knights and just some support unit in the back to help them. They can delete so many units together. It's insane how good Doom Knights get. And this is your... I believe this is the final choice that I haven't brought up. They have a poison attack as well, so... Rogue, Shieldshooter, Doom Knight, and Werefoxes. If you want to do the poison thing, those are the 4 classes to look after. But yeah, Doom Knights are just amazing. Unlike the Knight, like... When the Knight is good, the Knight blows everything out of the water. But when the Knight isn't good, it just does nothing. The Doom Knight always does something. Very rarely did my Doom Knights go up against something where they couldn't like leave at least a massive dent before they died or something. The Doom Knights are just really strong, especially if you stack them. They don't synergize with each other, but like they all pack such a big punch. I had a Sainted Knight in the back, I believe, and I had a Shaman for a long while. I think I've swapped out the Shaman for a Bishop just because I needed to fucking refresh. Well, at least, you know, dispel blindness, because that gets fucking cancer now. Blind. Wyvern Master. The Wyvern Master... So here's a thing the game does, before I'm gonna put out the Wyvern Master. You get introduced to a new area, and they're like, here's this enemy. You need to find an answer for it if you wanna smooth ride this area. Which, in Dragonland, is the Wyvern Master. That's like the main thing that's introduced, along with the Doom Knights, but mostly it's the Wyvern Master, and that's like the big problem. Because like you've been in Corin, yeah, you've been in Corin, and you mostly fight infantry there, so like you use the Clive just stamping through everything. And then this guy shows up, and he's like, hey, I kill everything that's on the ground. You bring cavalry, I kill that. You bring Landsknecht, I kill those, no problem. You're like, wow, Wyverns are fucking good, aren't they? And then you get your own Wyverns. And what happens after that? Well, it turns out, after you get the Wyvern, you're gonna get shit done by Gorelian Archer units and Gryphons in Elheim. You're gonna get murdered by furries in Bastoria, even though they're ground units. Like, it's weird. It's some kind of pattern they have where the cool units that get introduced, like, has to work to earn their spot. Wyverns, I tried to use Hilda for the longest time, and I think the mistake I did was that I put her with the Gryphon Master unit. It was because I didn't have a third Gryphon at the time. But yeah, good against melee. Specifically, let's see. Good against melee range unit. Becomes very... Alright, so at the very highest levels, Wyvern Masters get some kind of fucking roar that gives minus 20 initiative to the enemy team. That makes the Wyvern Master really good. So they deserve to be a situational. Because they still have the flying weaknesses, and it's kind of weird. Like, you never get to a spot where the Wyvern Master is like the awesome unit. They're kind of squishy, even though they have like a bunch of counter stuff. They're squishy in the early game, to be specifically. In the late game, they get much better with high evasion equipment and so on and so forth. Like Gideon's Scarf. Yeah. Wait, am I mixing up their stats with the Gryphon Master? Maybe. No, I think of something. Never mind. But anyways, the Wyvern Master is still here. I like their Fire Breath move. I like the minus initiative roar they do at the start. But they don't get to shine as much as when you first encounter them against you. Because the enemy is already adapted. Alright, next is the Prince. The Prince is an S-tier unit. Why is he S-tier? Put here in front. Because he's a great leader. He's the only other character, along with Elaine, that has the gain more VP when you defeat a unit. So you want to make him into like another deleter, as I call them, or like a sweeper, I call them actually. And that's where the Berserker came in. Not originally, because I struggled to make a unit for the Prince or Gilbert. He just buffs. It's all he does. He buffs and he removes buffs on enemies. Ah, my throat. Had to shout earlier. Yeah. He does a lot of buffs, and very importantly, he gives True Strike. He has a True Strike buff that he gives to multiple people. You have a backline with him and 2 Berserkers. They get True Strike. They have no problem hitting their shit. Boom, bam. Blinded, doesn't matter. Nothing matters. They just strike through it all. So that's where the Prince and the Berserker combine, and then you like had typical frontline stuff. That was a fantastic unit for him. Like, that killed so many things at the end game. But yeah, he's a great leader. He doesn't do much himself, but he does much for others. With that, that's why he's an S-tier unit. And yeah, oh yeah, I almost forgot one of the important things. When you play on the highest difficulty that I did, you gain less VP when you defeat a unit, I learned. So, you know, the more VP you have, the more abilities you get to use, the faster you can put out your other units, like get all the support stuff. Oh yeah, that's also, it's very nice to have one, wait, I'll cover that later. We're not there, but when we get to Owl, I'll speak about the healing assist. Alright, Dark Marquees. This is Baron Garia. It's another S-tier unit. Very brainless, very easy to use. She does her stuff. Her damage do drop at the end game, kinda like it's a Viking scenario. I don't know if she doesn't have enough attack scaling. Which like she's a killer through the early and mid game when you get her, and like she goes away for a bit, but you get her back fairly quickly if you just progress the story. And she doesn't fail. She has powerful, unique abilities. She has the rose stun, which does like the shield sweep. Stuns everyone. Good stuff. Applies debuffs. Has self-sustain, very good. She can lead a unit. She can be a part of a front line. She can be in a back line. She does everything. Very easy unit to use. And does very well. There's not much to argue about. Yeah, she is an S-tier. Drop her in everything you want. Alright, Amalia Dreadnought, my wife of choice that I ended up marrying. It was actually a contest between her and Berengaria. But we decided with Amalia because she was the stream favored woman. Amalia is another S-tier unit. Not a tank, but she's a frontliner. She's a frontline damage dealer, bruiser that can take damage. She is what Virginia wants to be, but does it actually well. Oh yeah, Virginia is very durable. Like she can take quite a beating, especially if you let her keep her starting shield. What's it called, like Rose Knight Shield or Royal something shield? It lets her heal when she gars or something like that. But anyways, back to Amalia. There's a ton of damage. The best thing she does is when she does her column attack, she does like this forward stab with a sword. It normally kills the enemy in the back, doing like 120 damage or something at the end game, which is normally enough to kill a wizard or another squishy unit. But yeah, alright, so I'm gonna be honest, she does die. She does die a couple of times, but it takes enough punishment, and she has so much health along with high armor that it's not a problem. She gets revived at the end, and then we heal her up in the next one. Life is good. I used her in multiple units. I used her with Swordmasters when I was in Albion. I used her in Elaine's unit at the end because lore reasons, which you will understand once you get there. If you pick your wife, you should bring her or him You pick the husband. You bring them with Elaine. You'll understand why when you get there. Alright, next is the first of the sisters. Yeah, there's nothing else to talk about them. She's very straightforward. Just a lot of damage. I'm trying to actually remember what the hell her blue stuff was. Oh yeah, she has like this follow-up attack, the kick. The kick is great. Guard seal, so they can't guard. Does a little bit of damage. She's good. And she doesn't fall off in damage like Berengaria does. Remember, where they're sorted here on these rows doesn't matter. Columns. It's just which bracket are they in. That's the only thing that matters in how good they are. Alright, so next is one of the sisters. Let's see if I can remember their names. The pale one is Eltolinda. What's the other one's name? It was also Linda. Rosalinda, that's it. Alright, Rosalinda. She's fantastic. She heals, blow kisses to people, patches them up, removes debuffs. She's the offensive. She's the offensive version of the sisters, focusing more on damage dealing. Great magic dealer. Probably, I'd say she's better than the Warlock at it, but they're not exactly the same. But yeah, she has great moves. If you're the kind of guy that likes working around tactics, you have a lot of utility to work with her to try to get the most fairy stacks before you blow it all off on. I believe it's called Elemental Roar. That's her like big damage spell. I only wish you could that you could use, like you could tell her to only use it if you have X amount of fairies, but you can't. So you just have to like tell, do Elemental Roar only when you have free AP or less. It doesn't spend it elsewhere. It's a very expensive skill. But you can build around her if you want to, but she doesn't need to be built around, and that's why she's an A tier. She's just a reliable damage source for magic damage, and she has a good heal that she spams non-stop. Alright, Elven Archer. This is a struggle for me, I'm gonna be honest. It was so hard to find a spot for the Elven Archer. Remember what I said earlier. The sniper is like the premium archer. The sniper tells you, alright, is it good enough to take a spot instead of a sniper? Elven Archer is not in that spot. The Elven Archer has... They have Healing Rain, which is kind of nice. And like, they have a lot of tools. But it's like, it's not proper dedicated tools. Like, they have a weak heal. The whole point of the archer is that you use them to remove debuffs while still having a damage source. But I just felt like I'll just use a bishop, and then I use something that's a larger damage source. And that's it. Like, I'm sure there's a great combination for Elven Archer. Feel free to add that in the comments and I'll look into it. But it's just... Like, we already have the Shieldshooter and the Sniper. I just couldn't find a spot for Elven Archer, even though they don't do this. And they have like this weird hybrid build where they do magical and physical damage, which I guess is a flexibility thing. But yeah, they're most like the magic archer, but you already have magic in the Warlock and the two Elven sisters to start with. Alright, and next is the Elven Fencer. I almost want to put her in struggle, but no, I think she's very much like the Swordmaster, I'd say. They're very similar in the stuff, just this is the magic version. Evasion tank frontliner can be put in the back. Has a stun. Has a basic stun in their like basic attack, which is good. They have this Nature's Wrath, which was the main reason I gave them a chance. Nature's Wrath is awesome. Right. That's what I saw something. Let's see here. Yeah. The problem is when you get them, you start facing a shitload of magic, like high magic resistance units, so they don't get to have like their moment to shine, it felt like. And you're fighting these units with the True Strike shit as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they just have a hard time when you actually get your hands on them to get to see them, because when you fight against your units, they're pretty good. They're a pretty scary unit to fight against. But they're a bit flimsy if they don't get to dodge. They have pretty high dodge chance, but it's still not enough. So you probably want them in the back line. They have a lot of great abilities though, so we put them here in situational gang. Definitely a unit worth going if you like their idle animation. I know I did. Alright, so next is Eltolinda. And she's gonna be right up there with her sister, just as good. She's the healing focused one. But yeah, she still does magic damage. She has a bit more focus on healing stuff. So like, if you want a single healer, she can normally do enough to to cover up for a single healer, like a bishop. Actually, no, I ended up rotating her out. Yeah, she's still an A tier. I was thinking since the bishop is S tier, but no. Yeah, it's still like just like her sister. There's a lot of work around the fair stacks. If you want to work around the fair stacks, you don't have to. She still does well. You only get one. Sometimes she does a lot. Sometimes she doesn't. Like it's like these two sisters are very customizable in what you want to do with them, their behavior. But yeah, I think A is a fair spot. Like a lot of strength for these generic ones being S tier is because you can bring multiple of them. You can't bring multiple Eltolindas, as far as I'm aware. All right, Snow Ranger. Yukiki, whichever. She is a very good archer. And she has the most insane counter move in the game. That does not mean you necessarily need to put her on the front line unless you know how to protect her. But when her counter triggers, she hits 3 enemies, and she hits pretty damn good. And she is one of your sources for ice damage. Which also... I think it's Eltolin that has the ice thing. If I remember correctly. But yeah, if you want to do the ice stuff, Yukiki and one of the sisters is some of the options. Yeah, she's just damn good. I made her the leader. She has ranged assist. She has ranged assist. Good counter moves. Good attacks. Has a very... Oh yeah. That's what I forgot to mention about the Shieldshooter. The Shieldshooter has Smoke Bolt. Smoke Bolt is awesome, especially on the higher difficulties. Denying assist is so fucking good. That's why we always bring at least one Shieldshooter with us, because for one Valor point we can't deny this fucking smoke assist. And some areas are riddled with fucking assist towers, especially some Battle for X fights. Like where they put 2 towers right next to the garrison. And you can just pop a smoke and life's good again. And speaking of assist, he has a unique one where she increases the range, and I think she increases the damage of the assist, if I'm not wrong. I didn't use it often, but when I use it, it always felt good. It's situational, but it's a handy situational kind of thing. But yeah, she's just a damn good archer. She doesn't have the true strike of the sniper, but still does a lot. I eventually just gave her the... there's a bow that gives, like, hits everyone with an ice attack. And I gave her that one, and she did great with it. Were Lion. You get one. It's a better Berserker. Why is it a better Berserker? Because Mordred... That's his name? Not Mordred. Morard. Yeah, there we go. Morard is a Berserker through and through, except he has one thing ahead of the others, which is the Bestral bonus during nighttime, which just makes him a better version. That's all there is to this. If there was a furry version of all classes, the Bestral version would just simply be an upgrade, just because they just get a bonus during nighttime. That's all they need to be better. It's the same stat growth and everything, yeah. He was my second Gladiator in Gilbert's unit. Did great. No problems there. I started wondering what if I could identify this little edge here. That was... It might... Oh, I was going to be a Doom Knight axe, but no, it's held down here. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, a Were-Lion goes here. You only get one Were-Lion, so... Alright, Were-Foxes. Were-Foxes are fantastic. They're the premium evasion unit, I'd say, for frontline duty. Your final poison choice, attack has like a pursuit on debuffed enemies, and debuffing is something you should be doing. So like that's almost like a free strike there. They do more damage in debuff, they have stun, they can hit a column, they do poison. They have evade, just like the rogue, but they can't steal points like the rogue can. So they're not as durable in that sense that they can't dodge as much. But they do a lot of damage. Were-Foxes are very good. If you want to build a fur squad, you bring Were-Foxes. Alright, Werewolves. I don't know if it's fair to put them in A tier, because they're basically Landsknechts, honestly. Werewolves are almost like... They're not like one-to-one copy of each other. But... Oh yeah, one thing about Landsknecht, they have a shield. But don't listen to Reddit people or whatever that tells you can put them in a front line because they have a shield. The shield helps mitigating damage, but they're not... Like, they don't have the bulk or abilities to help them deal with being a frontline duty against more intense unit combinations, which you will be facing later on. But back to the Werewolf. He does a lot of stuff similar to Landsknecht. They're very similar to each other. And they have like the same damage potential. Almost. I say the Landsknecht is slightly ahead, but Werewolves are really good to get that damage out. And just like the Landsknecht, the more Werewolves you have, like they kind of like work with each other. Like the synergizes with themselves. But yeah, I had a great unit where it was Were-Foxes with Werewolves in the back, 2 of each, and then a Were-Owl. And now we're going to talk about healing assist. Let's see. Where do I put the Were-Owl? I do want to put her in S tier for multiple reasons. One, she has free... as a leader, the Were-Owl has 3 things. She has the Bestial ability. She has healing assist. And she has flying. That's very nice abilities to have. How does she do as a healer, you might ask? I remember, all these furries, some of their skills get stronger during nighttime as well. Not only like they get faster on the map. But yeah, furries get super fast on the map on nighttime. So the werewolves, they have a if I remember correctly, but it's called Decimate. They do more damage, the less HP. No, they do more damage, the less enemies there are present. That becomes really strong when there's only 2 or less enemies. It would do like, when you get them at 30, 35, it does like 70 to 90 damage in that range. And that's enough to one-shot the back rows, which are normally what remains. But yeah, the werewolves are just good at dealing constant damage. And I feel like they strike maybe like 2 or 3 times before an enemy gets their turn. Do need help against armored enemies, but by the time you get the werewolves, there are not that many armored enemies present anymore. Because you mostly fight the other furries, you'll be fighting angels, and then you will be fighting some armored dudes near the final stuff. Which help them really shining. Remember, a part of what makes them put in the tier they belong to is when you get them and if you can use them straight away. Back to the Were-Owl. A lot of cool tricks in them. For as far as the leader goes, they're better than the bishop. Because they just have the flying trait, even if... I actually don't know if they move slower than a bishop. I think they do. But yeah. So the Were-Owl, good healing, very good solo healer as well for an evasive frontline. It's just, if you don't want bishops, Were-Owls is like the second go-to healer, which normally can cover up most of the healing. And what else does she do before I forget something important? I feel like I'm missing something. Where I'll unicorn over. That's how to recruit. I just want like God, I hate game rant. First that shows up. Don't tell me you have where I'll oh maybe I typed wrong. Useless. Alright, never mind. We'll continue. Oh, here we go. Alright, thank God. Yeah, so their heal gives regen. That's a really good thing. And then there's the... Right. Alright, so back to the Wereowl. Gives regen to a row of enemies, and plus magic defense, so I have that covered, magic stuff. And then I have night vision, grants a row of allies accuracy, and at night it becomes true strike instead, so again, during nighttime they're stronger. True strike goes well with anyone really. And then they have so-called extra heal, which grants pretty good healing, and then on top of that you get regen and plus initiative. It's 30 initiative, which means you're gonna outspeed most things. And then this the quick dispel. That's the good part. They have like the unit buffs up for something nasty. She got boop, quick dispel, and she gives PP to her allies. So yeah, overall, it's a really flexible healer support character that can heal everyone. It's regen, so if you have tougher dudes that can take a hit, they will get HP back afterwards, etc. Alright, Werebeard, you're going to the struggle. Now, I hate to put the Werebear so low because it's such a good class, but when you get it, it's just its main feature is kind of like the it works similar to the Gladiator. You wanted to have it at full health, it does a lot of damage, but its main damage thing can only hit grounded units. And when you're done with Pastoria and head into Albion, what are you fighting? Angels. What are angels? Angels are flying, but they can't use their big move. So there's so they can't use their big move for most of when you like get to the next area, because you get the Werebears very late in Pastoria. Gladiators can still swing as long as they get True Strike to help with the high evasion of the angels. Werebear, he can't do much. It's not a weak class, it's just when he arrives there's not much left in the game for them to do anything about. Which is such a shame. If we could have gotten them earlier, it would have been a slam dunk. And like, they do damage, and they have like this weird relationship with their health. They have bonuses for when they're at full health, and they have bonuses when they're at a low health. They have like this one attack that does more damage the less health they have. Yeah, that's why the Werebears falls in the struggle. I just couldn't find a way to make this unit like relevant for what was left on the game to fight against. It's a very cool class, and I think it's very strong. Just doesn't get to do anything where it's at. Alright, so next are the angel classes, and then we're done here, it looks like. So the Feather Shield, the tanky angel, is it's definitely better than Struggle. I'm gonna say it's a situational guy. Just because he is so hardcore strong against magic. Like, Paladins, they are strong against magic, they make you sturdy. Feather Shield makes the enemy wish they didn't bring magic to begin with, because he will reflect it back to the enemy. And I think he's the only class that does this, that like can bounce back attacks to straight away. Like, not in the same, like, it's not like getting hit and then activate a counter. It's boom, eat your own fireball. Yeah, Feather Shield's definitely a cool unit. I like it. Unfortunately, he has this weird, I think it's called Sacrifice, where he like moves and takes the hit for another character. But it doesn't improve his block rate, it doesn't give him a guaranteed guard. So he's stuck there. Hello, kitty. Meow, meow, meow. Kitty might want food, though, I'm not sure. Pretty sure she has food. He will survive. He got snacks before. Treats. But yeah, if you want something that can tank magic attacks, this is your guy. If you don't want to use Sainted Knights anymore. Or if you just want that flying effect. And let me just see. What was his... for angels, the opposite of Bestros is that angels get a bonus during daytime. Oh yeah, and the Feather Shield also inflicts minus magic defense, minus 50%, so they work very well with casters. Alright, so during daytime, they gain magic defense plus 50% to everyone instead of a row. Alright, that's not a big hit, that's not a big thing, but it means still good. Alright, then we have the Feather Sword. This is your evasion tank. Some people absolutely love Lady O'Cleese. I think she's great. I think she's situational. Evasion tanks, they're like strong in the late game when their stats gets higher, and you can just give them 2 scarves. You give them the noble scarf and give them the blue. I don't know if it's called a blue scarf. You give them the 20 and the 30%. They have 50 plus 50 evasion. Because you can't stack the same item, but you can stack the lower and the higher tier of that item. But yeah, the problem with that is still snipers, true strike, ranged assist counts as ranged attack, does a grillion damage to flyer units, and they can't evade the assist. So yeah, personally for me, Feather Swords, they're kind of meh. Sometimes they can do a lot of damage. I need to look into that when they do some kind of, I think it's like a spiral sword, if I remember correctly, or is that it doesn't matter. But yeah, they're here. Actually, looking at this, I think I want to put the gladiators back up here. Now, looking at their like characters I'm putting here up with them. But yeah, I definitely feel gladiators are worth the fantastic slot, even if they need like the assistance to get there. Alright, Feather Bow. This is a great archer unit. This is a fantastic addition. And how do we know this? Because you'll be very soon, or very quickly, once you get to Albion, you will learn the strength of the Feather Bow unit. Which mostly is that it has that blind, and it has an attack called... Is it Volition Shot? Looking at the wiki. No, Photon Arrow, that's the one. Attacks 2 enemies, and minus 50% physical defense, and passive seal if it's daytime. It still does the physical, minus 50% physical defense, that's a lot. And she can remove 2 PP with a single attack called Saint Shot if it's daytime, otherwise she just removes 1 PP if it's nighttime. But yeah, Shining Light, this is the thing. Inflict blindness on a row of enemies. Activates before an enemy uses an attack. It doesn't matter what the initiative order is. It triggers when an enemy is about to attack. You will just go bloop, blind, and then you better hope you had True Strike with you. Because if you didn't, you're gonna miss. And my god, are you gonna learn that lesson by the time you're done with Albion, because they have so many of these units. So yeah, this is a fantastic archer unit. Does suffer from being flying. With, you know, always bring Vanguard with you if you want to make sure they don't get shot at. Or you can just bring a Legionnaire. But I used... no, I brought Featherbow to... I think it was Clive units, actually. I brought it in with the Great Knights. She did actually great there. She did damage evasion, like the Shaman did, or the Druid. With the blindness. Yeah, hello, kitty. And she applied the physical defense debuff, which made the knights hit hard. This is a whiny cat. Oh, I've been doing this for an hour. Alright. Final class. Let's wrap this up. Featherstaff. Where do I want to put the Featherstaff? It's a weird, it's a interesting and weird healer. It kind of works better when there's more than one. I gotta say, I mean, Were Allen Bishop is S, so I guess A rank for the Featherstaff is acceptable. So the Featherstaff, overheal, perfect synergy with the Gryphon Master, because of their dive attack that does damage based on how much health they have currently. So yeah, my final Gryphon unit was 3 Gryphon Masters and 2 Featherstaffs. Not the most amazing thing, I know. It did have a lot of mashup problems. But it did great. Or like, it either did great, terribly, and sometimes it would be like, it did a little bit of damage but took no damage. Which is also good. That you're actually, as long as you win, because when you get like the first strike you can follow up. But you like, you do want to win on one clash if possible. Yeah, the Featherstaff guy, he mostly is his overheal. That's why you bring him. So you know he works with Gryphon Master. He works with Werebears in a sense, and he's like the Wereowl, where he gives regen when he heals. And he removes the debuffs, which is nice, and gives the one he Right. So this is a thing that you also get to learn when you play an Albion. You debuffs their archers because you don't want the feather bows to hit you. And as you debuff them, they have a Featherstaff with them, and he removes their debuff, and it gives them just 1 PP on top of that. Is there anything else about this guy? No. I don't think, like, I mean, I can talk about every single skill this character has, but then we'll be here for another 2-3 hours. But this was just like a quick and simple thing, so I think we're done here. And this is the tier list. How it looks like. And I gotta say, yep, looks good. I have said my reasons. And this is, yeah, it feels good. Remember, I have said my reasons for where they are. I don't think Werebears are weak. I don't think Elven Archers are necessarily terrible. They're just better options. You can only use so many units. Werebears are unfortunate, like when they arrive. And Gladiators are just simpler to make use for a similar effect for what the Werebear does. The Werebear is great for the final fight though, because you're fighting grounded units again. Then you can get all the value you want out of them. They're kind of similar to Amalia in a sense, like they're not dedicated tanks, but they do tank for the front line. But they're mostly there to bring the hammer and being able to take hits, kind of like Amalia. And with that, I want to thank you all for watching this tier list. It was fun. It took a bit of thinking to do, but we got there. And yeah, if you like this, I have more videos to come. And I stream on Twitch, linked in the description. Twitch, if you want to get heads up when a new video comes out. And that's it for me. So with that, I want to thank you all for watching. And until next time, and bye bye.